Hey guys, in this episode, I sit down and talk with our Director of Marketing, Nate Streeter, and I just checked in with him about how 2025 is going. We're halfway through Q3 of the year, so there's lots of things that we have learned and tried, and I wanted to have Nate on and just talk about. And he gets into it. He shares, the things that have gone well, what we're doubling down on. He also keeps it real, as he always does, and talks about the lessons learned, what things haven't gone as well as we had hoped on the marketing strategy side of things. So we talk a little bit about just the state of the market as well and our thoughts on that. Take a listen. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of Aleph Ventures TV. Today I am joined by one of my favorite guests, Mr. Nate Streeter. And happy to have him back as always. Nate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I got one of these funny little things to help me with my tennis elbow.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
If you see me doing that, that's what I'm doing, is trying to help with that. So
I saw that on your desk, and when I walking by a few times, and it reminded me of nibs. Those like Twizzler, nibs.
Yeah.
And I was like, I bet Nate had. I bet it's like a life. It's like a huge nib, decoration or something. Like that sounds like something Nate would put in his office.
I do have some cool stuff. Like I've got this cool fairy wand here in case someone needs to. Bought that at a craft fair from a 10-year-old girl that I couldn't say no to, and then I also got this from another little boy that I bought at a craft fair.
Oh, there we go.
I haven't tested it yet, but maybe we could. If you come in my office, there's so many toys to play with.
I love it, man. Wanted to have a conversation, check in a bit on just how the year's going. As we're recording this, it's August 8th. So, we're over halfway through the year. We're well into Q3, and I feel like we've learned a lot, and just wanted to check in and see what we've been learning, see what's on our mind recently. And so just to jump right into that, one thing I'd be curious about coming into 2025, I think we did an episode, actually big bets, marketing bets for 2025 or something like that. Yep. But so I'd just be
that was a young and naive.
Let's start on what are the convictions you had coming into 2025? Where were you were confident, you had strategy, you had tactics that getting into the year, you actually feel like that's been confirmed. Like those hunches were right. I feel even more convictional about, this or that strategy.
Yeah, I would say most of what our strategic direction was confirmed this year. I don't think consumers want the same thing from their painter. They want to buy from a local, present, competent painter. So I think that didn't change from 6 months ago to today. And our ability to communicate that, with high clarity to them is what marketing is. So I think that conviction hasn't changed at all, and I'm still feeling really good about that. I think the conviction that we need to have content that supports that. And so when we talk about content, we're talking mostly about pictures and videos. That conviction hasn't changed. We knew that, particularly for our partners at Aleph, that was going to be something that we needed to do a better job of in 2025 than we did in 2024. And so I think those are things I think our convictions still are the same too. We're super bought into this idea of that there's three buckets. You've got brand, you've got digital, and you've got neighborhood. And a successful painting business that's scaling up over $5 million, particularly, probably has to have a mix of those three things. I think we're feeling like that's still true. So I think there's just a lot of things that I think we're still, our foundation is still the same. But marketing has definitely been a lot more challenging this year. So many of you I just haven't been participating as much with other painters. It's just because we've been at the grindstone, man. Like quarter two really was challenging for us. I want to say, I got it right here in front of me somewhere. We ended the quarter at 84% of our lead goals, which in Aleph ecosystem is like bad. I said it's so Minnesotan too. Bad. It's like bad. So, quarter one, we came out 98%. So we really came out swinging on our appointment goals, and quarter two was really tough for us. Now I'm feeling good. Like right now we're at 101% for quarter three, 5 weeks in. So we're feeling pretty good. But a lot of that quarter two gap was created by some decisions and some things that didn't go as well this year. And I'd be happy to talk about those if you want to, Haakon.
Yeah, I think we'll get there, as well as maybe contextualizing that, that percentage of goal, because it's on a growth goal. So just even
so we're seeing that grow like 40% across the board. Get to 65 million. So like these are big audacious goals in some ways to start with. All right, but and I would say like we've got a handful of partners that actually were way above our goals. Like these are averages that I'm
sure. So yeah, this is across 20 for context for those 20 companies we're engaged with in partnership with Aleph. So there's ups, there's downs, there's a mix.
And there's commonalities between my gaps. And that's probably where we've made a lot of adjustments going into quarter three here and into as we go through the rest of the year. Is we see some commonalities between some of ours that have the biggest gaps. And that's what we're really adjusting for.
So we'll get to the gaps. Maybe before that, like just back to where you continue to feel confident and clear. Any further clarity on strategy? Like, as far as like the content side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like just how to get it.
I mean, I could probably talk about we could go campaign by campaign, and I probably could talk through every single part of it, which would be really fun. If you guys wanted to do that for 10 hours, I would be happy to do it. But let me see if I can do a couple high points. Like we made assumptions on repeat referral that we needed to have good strategy around drip campaigns. We just needed to remind people that we're in business, right? And that's worked fine this year. A lot of our partners are up in their brand categories this year. And that's good because demand in most markets is down. So if we're increasing those numbers, like we're really going against the trend there. And a lot of that has to do with drip. It has, we also have been very concerted effort to make sure we're reaching out to every single person on our list about once a quarter through phone calls and SMS. Shout out to Jason Phillips for helping us sort of understand some of that. And that's helped too. And then we have a few partners that are just they just care so deeply about their customers, so they're really going above and beyond with all kinds of different things, for the holidays, for gift baskets after a project. It just goes on and on. But I think we've learned quite a bit from those different aspects too. So I think in the brand categories, we've systematized a lot more. We've gotten a lot more. We're just better at drip overall and also more proactive. I think we were much more reactive in the sense that like, repeat referral numbers are down. Let's, get a program together over the coming weeks. Whereas now we have programs that are much more like once a quarter. We call everybody, we text everybody. Like that's been beneficial for us. So otherwise, I would say in the digital side, so many changes. I mean, it's just, it's a moving target constantly, right? And maybe one thing I could tell people that's maybe wonderful and frustrating at the same time is that my team could do the exact same thing for two of our partners and get completely different results digitally. So, in fact, here's a hot take for you, Haakon. I would say if you see people that have extraordinary results with like a marketing vendor, it probably has more to do with the painting company than it has to do with the marketing vendor. That would be my estimation based on the results I see consistently. It's like, well, I want to take credit for some extraordinary results. But what I know, because I have all these other partners, is that sometimes we get extraordinary results doing the exact same thing. And even when the things seemingly are the same, like they get, let's say, 10 Google reviews each month, and they, like there's a bunch of things that you maybe could point out and say, no, there's differences. No, we have a bunch where it's the same. Now, some of the differences are that they might have less competitors in that market. Maybe they aren't bidding the keywords up as much on Google, or they aren't using local service ads as much, or, and it could go on and on and on, right? But at the end of the day, there is a lot of variation. And that is probably one of the most frustrating parts of marketing, is that you could literally do the exact same thing and get completely different results. And this is partly why I think you have to have a marketing mix. We've had conviction about that, so that you kind of cover your bases and you could create a predictable, scalable marketing system, right?
Yeah, and this is, I think, particularly for folks, let's call it like under $3 million, there's just this pull to want the marketing strategy to be kind of like a set it and forget it thing. Like there's just one strategy. There is a marketing vendor that they have this thing. It works regardless of your market, regardless of your brand, regardless of your content. It just always works. And it's just too dynamic. Like it's just too dynamic.
Well, I sort of love that and hate that for them though. Like, so you find this extraordinary, which there are some really great vendors out there, and they get some results for you. But that's sort of a blessing and a curse potentially, right? Because you may be, what happens if they don't get your results in 3 weeks? I mean, I hate to say it like that, but if you have to have a mix of things so that if something stops working as well, you have something else. I think that's often what we try to aim for. Is in an ideal world, all of our marketing tools would be at like 80%. And then if something goes down to 50%, we could make up for it with a couple other tools. You see what I mean? To me, that's what I see with big, healthy home service businesses, is that they've just got all these things on there, all these marketing campaigns that they could turn up and down as they need to, because things are constantly moving. We don't set and forget anything. Like we're making changes to campaigns in every single company in our portfolio every single month.
Totally.
So, yeah. And that I think is kind of modern marketing, to be honest with you. So when we log in, like sometimes we have a new partner, like I won't say which one, but a new partner came on in this year, and we looked at it and their digital agency hadn't touched anything. They had done 5 changes to all of their digital campaigns the entire year. That's not going to work. Like you have, like it might work at some level, but it's not being optimized well. So that's kind of what you get, Haakon, if you don't pay attention, because the digital companies particularly they could never give as much energy to every single person every single month. Like it's sort of like your gym, right? Like everybody can't come to the gym, otherwise the system won't work. I would say digital agencies are a little bit like that too, where they literally couldn't give you as much energy every month. Like their system won't work to do that.
So how do you differentiate? So it's interesting, where that kind of is intuitive of, all right, if you're getting neglected by your vendor, and maybe even not because the vendor's an evil person, it's just the nature of the beast. They got lots of people, and if it's kind of the results are like not bad, or they're okay enough to not need to worry, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak. But then at the same time, I feel like we hear a lot of people who there's all kinds of like motion going on by their marketing vendor. So it feels like, oh, we're changing this and we're tweaking this and we're making that, and we're doing this. But it's all like, is it really moving the needle? Like, how do you know that like motion is not really like moving anything?
Well, I think,
any thoughts on that?
Like, well, depending how geeky we want to get, but like, I think on Google, for instance, I think it's very important that you set up conversions correctly. Because if you're looking at your analytics or you're looking at your AdWords campaigns, if you have conversions set up correctly, you can, clicks don't matter, none of that really makes any difference. And because then you could see really the quality. So like for us, what we're really proud of is when we have several partners actually where their overall trend line from year over year is only up like 15%, the traffic is, but then the quality of the traffic is so much better than it was a year ago. And we can look at that, not just, I know you guys will probably be able to look at like how long someone's on your site, but that can be really deceptive actually, because ironically, the most efficient person is someone who goes to your website and just like immediately schedules an appointment. So being on your website longer amount of time is not necessarily, in the painting world, a good indication of quality. Now, granted, if they're only on your site for 5 seconds, like that's clearly not good quality. But if they do fill out a form or they call you and the call is over a minute, those are the ways that we measure conversions, is calls over a minute, and then if they self-schedule on our website. And that is a fantastic way to see what's driving traffic or what's driving the results for your company. So those are things that you can do. I think, if you have a good system like we do too, you could track to see what the quality of a lead. So you could track it all the way from the beginning of that click all the way to the end of a sold painting job. And really campaign by campaign determine like, well, what's really driving revenue, right? Because that's what you want. It's like, no one cares about clicks or phone calls, or at the end of the day, what's driving the revenue. And having a healthy balance of that too, like some of our marketing campaigns, we plan that they're not going to have as good a success rate. So we know for a fact that door knocking doesn't have as high a success rate. We know for a fact that Facebook doesn't have as high a success rate. So when we're doing those kind of campaigns, we're making plans that they're going to have lower success rate than something like direct mail. Now, that's part of the reason why we will spend twice as much on a direct mail lead as we will on a Facebook lead, as an example. I have no problem doing that because the lead's so much higher quality.
Sure.
I'm wandering so much today. Hopefully, I'm going to give you guys amnesia with all the wandering I'm doing. I'm sorry.
No, this is great. This is great. How about let's maybe pivot into some of the harder learned lessons so far this year. And I would say, get as detailed as you want. I think it's helpful for people of like, okay, this was the strategy, this was the tactic, this is how we thought we were going to deploy it, this is what the results were, and here's where we realized, that wasn't the right way to do it, or that wasn't the right step, whatever.
Yeah, man, we made some mistakes, that's for sure. We brought in, I'm just kind of looking, it's like, yeah, man, we brought in 11,000 some appointments so far year to date. So we've been like, we have a lot of reps, and that's sort of a wonderful thing. I would say the mistakes that I made, like overall, it's like putting all of your eggs in one basket. Like that's a mistake. I wish I could go back to myself last December and tell myself, like, for instance, we brought Facebook marketing in-house. I think if I could, like, completely. So we stopped working with vendors, and I wish if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have done it that way. I wish I would have because sort of the wonderful thing, if you have 20 different brands, is like we could have left a handful of brands working with vendors, have a handful that we worked with in-house, like we wouldn't have had to do it that way. And I think that would have been much more preferable. I think the second thing is, until you have a solid way that you're going to get content, it's like the cart before the horse. If you start spending $5,000 a month on Facebook ads, for instance, and you don't have a good strategy on how you're going to make fantastic videos that, position you as local, present, and competent, you're going to probably waste a bunch of money. And that's a lesson that we learned, is like getting content creators. So a few of you are really amazingly, you're great behind the camera. And like, if you're great behind the camera, this is not as big a problem for you. Like you could do walkthrough videos. Anytime you get behind the video, all of your family and friends and stuff probably want to watch your videos on YouTube, on Facebook or Instagram, and you probably get all kinds of likes. This is good, shout out to the ZKs and stuff of the world. It's like, you don't have to pay. People just want to watch you do stuff. And I love that for you. And you should take advantage of that. And I would say definitely spend money over and above your organic. If you're not good at that, you could still solve the problem, but you have to be much, much more strategic, is what I'm trying to say. And so we've worked and we've had some success, but moderate success of like hiring local content creators in markets where we hire someone, they go out on job sites and they take pictures and videos, and the owner might not be there at all, if that makes sense. And I would say we've had some success with that. It's been way more challenging than I expected. And that put a lot of strain on our Facebook marketing because we had tens of thousands of dollars a month that we had planned for Facebook marketing. And when I talk about Facebook, I'm talking about all Meta. So I think those were lessons. Those were probably my biggest lessons in quarter 2. We started really our spend like we do most years at the end of quarter 1, but most of the spend was in quarter 2. And again, if I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't have planned for such big spends. I would have rolled it out more slowly over several quarters. We just had so much confidence because we had watched it be done so many times. And we're like, oh yeah, we could do this. And it's like a lot of parts to this were a lot more difficult than we were expecting. So
yeah, I think it's how,
yeah,
like the Gary V, marketing guru Gary V, just a simple framework. I mean, it's kind of very, very simple, but like content versus distribution. It's kind of like the water in the water pipe and then the water pipe that gets the water to where it goes. It's like if you could have, bad water, kind of bad content, and it doesn't matter how good your piping system is. If you're delivering bad water, it sucks. If you have great water, but then you kind of have pipes with leaks in it and, it bottlenecks and clogs and all kinds of things like that.
That's
just differentiating that.
Good examples of that to me are Facebook and door knocking, because if you have better door knockers out there, you'll get higher success rate. Like it'll happen. If you get worse door knockers, you're going to have lower success rate and low average job size. Like I can basically guarantee it. Why is that? It's the same with Facebook. If your ads aren't as good a quality, you're going to have lower success rate and lower average job sizes. It's because what you have to remember is that marketing is just part of the sales process. And what you're doing is you're bringing somebody through the first few steps of that sales process. And to your piping analogy, it's like, well, you just didn't bring them far enough into the pipes, like, or the pressure wasn't good enough, or I don't know, maybe this analogy is not perfect, but then when the sales rep gets out there, it's like the lift is way too big. Like they're not, so this is the thing that you want for all your marketing, is to bring them along. And I think many of you sort of understand this very intrinsically, because when you go out and do bids for a repeat referral, this, like it's already been brought way further along in the buying process. Like in many cases, they're already ready to buy from you. And so all you need to do is go out there and give them an estimate, right? But someone who's just starting that process or who really knows nothing, it might feel like a big, huge lift to even ever sell to them, right? So I think that's one thing I've learned, is that lead quality has so much to do with your ability to communicate clearly, and it has to do with positioning. We found that positioning ourselves as, like I mentioned before, local, present, competent, that's kind of what people want from their home service business. So the better job we do of that, almost always we win. So
is there anything from that experience of like bringing kind of Meta Facebook strategy in-house and then kind of going back maybe to vendors? Is there anything that by getting those internal reps doing that, working that out internally, you feel like you have like sharper eyes for like evaluating vendors? Like what did we learn from that is probably going to make us choose vendors or know what to look for in the right vendors? Anything like that come to mind?
I think what I think we've learned is we'd rather spend more money on the content side of it. So I know that sounds like a wild way to answer your question, but I don't know that there's anything that we see specifically with vendors that they're doing that we're like, oh, wow, there's some secret sauce.
Like it's pretty straightforward. It's just the variable is the quality of the content.
I think so. And like, I think the best vendors are doing a better job of holding accountability and providing leadership around that. To me, shout out to, I won't say any vendors' names because I always get in trouble for that, but there's a few that are doing a really good job at that. But to me, it's not some secret sauce they have. Well, heck, I could tell you they don't have a secret sauce because they've made videos on exactly how they do everything. I will too if someone wants me to. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, execution is the hard part, and they're helping people execute. So I think for the most part that's true, though. It would be true with Google or any other tool, is that the best vendors tend to help you execute better. They might be helping you get more, they've figured out how to help you get more Google reviews, for instance. They've helped you figure out how to write, and get more content on your website, connecting to important things with links. And, like, those are all things that, like, often is just about the strategy and the commitment, and has little to do with some magic secret sauce. That's what people want. They want some magic secret sauce that doesn't exist.
I think that's great. It reminds me, as you talk about that, something I've heard about, like Mr. Beast, the kind of famous YouTuber guy, is I think his edge is like the speed at which he learns. Obviously he's obsessed. So he's kind of, if anybody, it's very fascinating. He's done interviews where he kind of talks about his journey and whatnot. And he's a very, very smart guy. And my kind of takeaway from him is so a lot of kind of time under tension, like he's just putting out a lot of content and constantly learning. But I think when it comes to like consultants, he's a big fan, but he doesn't look at it as they're going to do he doesn't view consultants as they bring some secret sauce that's like esoteric. It's just that they speed up the learning process. Yep. And I think if you look at vendors that way, where it's like, I'm not really paying you, I shouldn't believe that you have some magic, but what knowledge do you have that I can benefit from and speed up our learning? But like, I'm still going to have to probably learn with you. Like, we're still going to have to do this together.
It would be like if you hire a personal trainer, like that's probably a better way to think about it. It's like, there's probably no secret sauce that's going to happen in the equation. It's more just, they're going to create the coaching and the structure and all the things that help you win. So
totally.
I've never actually had a personal trainer, but this is what I have heard.
Well, you've had GAMs with Alex, right?
Yeah.
That's maybe the closest thing. I've had GAMs with Alex too. It's probably the closest thing to a personal trainer I've had.
Well, I haven't had a personal trainer for like health,
Right.
But yeah.
I'm just saying like a comparable of what that might be like. Or
having GAM under Alex, I want to say I had GAM with him for 2 years.
Okay, we're sorry. We're saying GAM in Aleph parlance. That is goal alignment meeting. It's our internal like one-on-one meetings is what those are.
Yeah, and it's very much focused on development and accountability, and so it's great. It has a scorecard components usually, and different accountability components, and it has a format. But I probably grew more in those 2 years under Alex than maybe, I don't want to say any time in my life, but it's definitely one of the greatest times that I've grown. Like, he really pushed me a lot, and I grew a lot as a leader and in all kinds of ways. So, yeah, man.
And to your point
kind
on
of like reps are so important. So.
And I think to your point on like a good vendor helps you execute. I think too, like good leaders, it's not like they kind of bring some new perspective, maybe not always like a bunch of new knowledge. It's just like better helping you execute with the knowledge you already have.
Right.
Like you know how to do this. You just got to, hold accountability, motivate, whatever. But
so I think those are some of the stumbling blocks that we had in Q2 was just putting too many chips, getting things out of order. Like, we didn't have enough content for the kind of spends that we were spending. We weren't innovating fast enough in some of those areas. We just kind of bit off more than we could chew. And I think as you see at Aleph now in Q3 into 4 here, we put a lot more focus back into neighborhood marketing. I think these are areas that we feel a little bit more comfortable with too. They feel a little bit more like we could control the outcomes. I think that's been difficult for us with digital marketing this year. Like I kind of mentioned already, like we could do the exact same things at 2 different partners and get completely different results. That's rarely the case when we do direct mail or door knocking or yard signs or neighborhood marketing. It's much more predictable and consistent for us. And it might just be because we're just better at it. But for us, those are things that it feels like, because really when you think about a business, part of what you're really trying to do, especially when it comes to marketing, is create predictable outcomes, because marketing is that first cog. So if you can determine how fast it's going, how many appointments are coming in each week, it has a profound impact on a scaling business. And conversely, I know many of you, because I've talked to so many painters this year, when it isn't predictable, it's a nightmare, especially as you grow bigger. It's the bigger you are, the bigger the nightmare actually it is, because if you've got 4 sales reps and 4 project managers and a whole host of painting crews that are all depending on those appointments to be coming in each week, the pressure's on, right? And you're watching that money. And conversely, you can't do twice as many appointments the next week. You only have 4 people who could go out and run appointments. So you have to have some predictability so that you can even that out and make your whole system work correctly.
That's one of the things that I think you've done a great job of, I think, making us all smarter and forecasting within Aleph, of just that reality of you need to understand the pain, especially at scale, of like missing marketing goals that because of capacity, you can't, like your ability to make that up is going to be limited in a plan going forward. And so one, to your point, it just shows the importance of that first cog and controlling that first cog, because it's, unlike some other things in a plan that you could kind of pull levers and maybe make up for, like leads are a little bit more touchy.
It's partly because of the biggest motivator of that has to do with supply and demand. So you don't control the supply and demand at all, right? So that, I think, is the harder part of the equation with marketing, is that the biggest part of the equation you don't control at all. But I think Aleph, there's so many things we could be proud of. I think one of the things we can be proud of is we are speeding up our time of impact. So I would say even within 90 days now of a partner joining us, we can have quite a bit of impact from a marketing standpoint. And that's, for some of you, that might sound like a long time, but for us, it's like, well, if we could have impact within 1 quarter, that's pretty profound. And then like we have one partner this year where, he's getting 3 times as many appointments as he did this time last year. That's pretty profound, especially considering demand is way down. So, doing something like that is something that I think we could be proud of. And scaling fast is challenging. And so that's usually when people ask me the question like, Nate, how much should I spend percentage of gross? I think usually the next question I'll ask you is like, well, how fast are you trying to grow? Because that has the biggest impact on that. If you aren't trying to grow at all, it's not going to cost you hardly anything for marketing. Well, especially if you've been in business for decades, and demand is up. Like, I think maybe I'll put it a different way, Haakon. Like, it's not impressive if you spent almost no money in 2021, 22, 23, and you weren't trying to grow. Like, okay. And you've been in business for decades. It's like, that's not impressive. What's impressive is if you have been growing significantly and you have, kept your marketing costs down. But even better is that what you'd actually probably prefer in the equation is you have a healthy marketing budget, because then you probably have more control and you have more confidence that if you need to, you could turn it up or down in the coming quarters, right? So you'd rather have a system where you had probably more marketing spend in some cases, especially if you thought you could charge more and you could still get your same net. Hopefully I'm making sense. But
yeah, totally. Maybe contextualize a little bit just for, I think there's folks out there. I think there was like Sherwin-Williams. There was like an investor call recently. Sherwin-Williams, I think, lowered some of their expectations for sales and stuff, and different people talk about like a softer market, which I think it's fair to say that. At the same time, it can vary a lot. So you said 85% of the goal in Q2. but nonetheless, like year over year, what could you say about just, I don't
I mean,
know,
we're at
Aleph as a data
89%
point?
year to date right now. Well, we're way up. I mean, I don't know what was our gross sales last year, 30 some million plus pairs.
Yeah, 30. Yeah,
And we're
around
going to be at
40.
60 some million. So,
Yep.
I suppose we're up 50%. Plus, we've had some acquisitions. So, I suppose that complicates that slightly. But yeah, man, like I have all kinds of partners that we've doubled, their sales this year. So, like, depends on what you ask. I have some that are really struggling, to get to where they are. I think there are a few themes that I would say it's definitely been more challenging if you are in the relationship side of it. So you work with a lot of GCs or a lot of commercial, or I would say that those areas, it's not across the board. Some are doing great in that, but I would say like it's more strained even than residential is the way I would describe it. So if you're feeling that this year, I think you're in good company, although you probably talk to other painters. I also think if you're too dependent on digital, the problem bit is like particularly with Google is that it's a bidding system. So if more painters in your market need more appointments, they're going to bid it up. And we see lead costs astronomical right now in some markets I'm saying through Google. To the point where, I mean, I had my digital guy today in one market. I won't say any names. And he's like, I don't know what painters are thinking. There's certain keywords that they're bidding. Like, I don't know how they could even possibly be making money with the kind of bidding that they're doing. It's like, yeah, maybe. They're just probably desperate. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So it's like, well, we need to be able to pivot and move that money elsewhere then is the way we're looking at it.
Sure.
So, but I'll give you another funny story to answer your question a little more directly, Haakon. One of our partners that isn't doing quite as well this year, his local Sherwin told him that he's the most successful painting company from a growth standpoint in their market. But from our standpoint, we're looking at it like, because we just have such audacious goals, right? And so I think perspective matters. We're trying to grab a lot of market share right now. And that, I think that's smart. We want to keep our costs down because margin is still as important this year as it was last year. We're not changing our margin goals. I think if anything, we're probably going to come out of the year with higher margin this year than we did last year. It looks like to me. So I'll be honest, Haakon, like I think for a lot of business owners, it would be better to like ignore that noise.
That's
your
totally
sales
what
teams,
I think.
Like your sales teams are such emotional beings, and their emotional health is like probably very important to your organization's health. And if you're the sales rep, especially if you're the selling owner, it's like, well, then you need to stay out of that noise and focus on the things you can control. And that's what we've been doing. Like, my whole marketing team, I suppose we could just sit around and piss in a pot and, complain about. There's a lot of things I suppose we could complain about, but it doesn't really seem like that does much good. So we just don't focus much on that. We don't talk about it much. Like my team doesn't. Like we literally just focus on the things we can move and change each day.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking that. I think my 2 cents is, again, I have conversations all the time. I'm talking to Sherwin, reps. I'm talking to independent Benjamin Moore dealers across the country. And if you are under $5 million, it just, you have no business. Like the painting industry is so fragmented and the bar of professionalism is so low, and the quality of the content of marketing is so low that it's just like, it just doesn't matter. Like, might it be harder? Yeah. Like you're going to have to have good sales process. You're going to have to execute. You're going to have to take care of customers, but like, it does not materially impact you. Like just go execute. And if you do that, you're going to take market share. Like I just firmly believe that if you're a 10 million plus company and it's like, all right, yeah, you might be starting to feel it in certain ways of like a soft economy.
I can't remember who was here in Minneapolis. It was one of the paint reps, and he said something to that effect. He's like, yeah, there's 5 painting companies, and I can't remember what market he was even talking about, that have basically taken 100 small painting companies' business this year. And so what if those 100 small companies are down 20%? Those 5 overall are up because, so I think that practically is what's happening a bit in our industry, which is that, some of it's just that the baby boomers are the most likely to be the handyman painters, the sort of truck in a truck, as Nick Slavitz says, the 1.5, and they're retiring. And it's like, and then there aren't as many 20-somethings that are taking, starting painting businesses, right? So
sure,
this is like part of what's happening. And then there's plenty of hungry entrepreneurs that are just taking up that slack. So
yeah, I
think that to me is also a big force in this equation. And then the DIY part of it, of course, this is why venture capital has gotten their nails into so many different home service industries, is because they saw what was going to happen with DIY in the coming decades. And they knew that these industries, it didn't make any difference what would happen in the economy, because people weren't going to be willing to do it themselves as much every single decade. These industries would go up. And we're already seeing that in this decade, because the baby boomers were the most likely of the current to do it themselves. And it just goes down precipitously after that. The millennials are just not going to do as much themselves. And so I think those are all big factors. That's the only reason I'm bringing this all up, is that there's plenty of reasons why we could be excited about the future, regardless of sort of the current economic state. That doesn't necessarily have that much impact from, a broad scale of supply and demand, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
For a specific company, to your point. So
yeah. No, I think so. I think the folks who have their head down, they're focused, they don't have a one, set it and forget it mindset. They have a dynamic mindset, growth mindset. They're doing fine.
It's just that old adage that you guys have all heard. Like, you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than your friend who's running with you away from the bear. So, yeah, man. At the end of the day, that's sort of how it is. Like, there's hundreds of painting companies that aren't as fast as you in the forest. And it's like, it doesn't matter if the bear's speed is faster or slower, as long as you're faster than them. So.
That's great. Nothing like forest wisdom from North Minneapolis, Nate Streeter right there.
Right, yeah. And that's the extent of my forest wisdom. I'm a super city slicker. Much more likely to catch me on a electric bicycle in the middle of the city than like hunting or something like that. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, dude, thanks for making some time, for checking in with me. Always appreciate your insights and your thoughts. We'll Q4 as kind of we're landing the plane on the year. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah. What I didn't tell people is like, what I can't wait to talk more about, maybe we'll talk in like 8 or 10 weeks, is just how much of a bet we're making in our local markets on flyer delivery, door knocking. Like, I've literally changed my entire budget around some of these things. And this is such a rapid movement for Aleph throughout the year this year. And we're making big bets in some of these directions. So it's going to be really fun to talk later this year to see how some of those bets paid off or didn't. It's fine. But I think they will.
Yeah, I think so as well. Awesome, brother. Can't wait. Thanks again, as always.
Yeah.